What age should I buy health insurance?
With health insurance, the earlier you buy, the better. Invest in this because later on, when you would require it, you may not get a policy.
How do I select the best health insurance policy?
Pre and post hospitalization is a must, and the more you can get, the more number of days for pre and post, the better.
Can I buy a health insurance policy today and claim it tomorrow?
If I asked you, let's say you bought a policy today and you had a heart attack later that month, before the 30 days, would the policy cover it? Any action of war is not covered. To do with HIV, STDs, not covered.
Guys, welcome to an all new episode of Infinite Health. We have Gaurav Nemani in this episode. Something that I really enjoyed in these three segments of health insurance podcast is something that health insurance is something that we all know about, we hear about, but we don't take it really because we all think that we are young and we are fit and that we don't need it. I think once you watch these three segments, you will realize how important health insurance is and how it impacts not just you, but your family as well. So, and also tax benefits for your, account. So I would just really insist that you watch all the three segments. And I hope you guys enjoy this podcast segment where we talk about the basics and then we talk about a little more in depth about health insurance. And in the third segment, we'll talk about, fraudulent claims or rejections or maternity and, things like misdeclarations. So please stay tuned and I hope you enjoy this. Gaurav, welcome to Infinite Health. You're my last guest for season 1 and I'm very excited for this episode.
Thank you so much, Anand, for having me today. How have you been?
No, I've been good, Gaurav, and I've been meaning to invite you for the longest time. Health insurance is such a topic that I think most people don't know about, and I really want to get into the very basics. So what I've done is I've made this podcast into 3 parts. In this first part, we'll be discussing the very basics of health insurance because I think a lot of my audiences out there are very young, just starting their corporate careers, and they don't know exactly what health insurance is. So which brings me to my first question, what is health insurance?
So, health insurance is basically an insurance you can buy to cover the medical costs that you incur if at all one is if at all one is hospitalized. So, if you have an ailment and you require treatment at a hospital, even if it's daycare or inpatient, then and health insurance is something that pays for the cost of the hospitalization for you.
But then what age should I buy health insurance? Should I buy it young?
So, with health insurance, the earlier you buy, the better. The reason for buying early is the way I see it is that when you're younger, you're healthier, you have lesser issues, health issues. Hence, companies are ready to take you easily. So, it's a two-way street. It's a contract between the person and the insurance company. So, you put up a proposal and they accept it. So only if you're healthy, they will accept you.
But I have a counter question to this. What if I'm a young guy just starting my corporate career and I don't want to spend 10,000-20,000 on health insurance and I'll be like, listen, I'm fit. Like when I start seeing certain signs, then I'll take health insurance. Like what would you say to people like them in that case?
So for people like that, I would just say that invest in this because later on when you would require it, you may not get a policy. So early onset of diabetes and other such ailments are common nowadays. It's rapid, right? The average ages for cancer is deteriorating year on year. So if you don't buy it early, you may not be able to buy it all.
And the same thing for comorbidities. And people are being diagnosed for diabetes at 25,
with lifestyle
26.
ailments, it's crazy.
So like, is there a particular age that you would recommend to buy a policy, like right out of college? Or even would you say that even for young children who are, say, in school?
I would say that, their parents should decide to take their policy as soon as possible. When it comes to the legality of buying one, you can buy insurance is 91 days. So a baby of 91 days can enter a policy in their parents' policy. So you should buy it as young as possible.
Which brings me to my next question that, like if I'm the breadwinner of my family, like if I'm putting the food on the table, so should I buy a family cover policy or would you recommend that I buy individual policies for different people in my family?
So that's the beauty of uncertainty, right? You don't know who will fall sick, whether you're the one who's going to fall sick or whether it's your spouse or your children. So everyone in the family should have a policy. So a family float or a multi-individual policy is recommended.
So you're saying that it doesn't matter whether you're buying it for the entire family together or whether you're buying individual policy. It completely depends on what their lifestyle is or what they're going through, or if they're prone to certain diseases and things like that.
Absolutely. So it's a geolocation based thing. Where you live is also a factor. What you eat is a factor. What your genetics are is a factor. It's all of these. Your age is a huge factor.
Right. Then what are the features I should look for while buying health insurance? Like, how do I select the best health insurance policy?
So with health insurance in today's world, with health insurance, first of all, a good coverage is required. So policies that give you coverage up to a good limit. That's point one. There are some basic benefits that you need in today's time. So like pre and post hospitalization is a must. And the more you can get, the more number of days for pre and post, the better. Today's industry's best would be 60 days pre-hospitalization, 180 days post-hospitalization. So you're looking at a policy which gives you at least that or somewhere near about that figure. Another good feature to have is restoration. So restoration is basically where your sum insured gets reset and you get another sum insured for the year. So we can discuss that in length later on. What is a restoration? You need a policy that gives you a cumulative bonus or a no claim bonus. It could be any of these terms depending on the policy, but it's just if you don't claim, you get a bonus. Your sum insured is enhanced or your premium is reduced. It's one of these things.
But
It's
if
a
I
bonus.
say claim all of the money that I was supposed to, say my health insurance is for 5 lakhs and I claim the entire 5 lakhs or whatever amount,
Yeah.
I will not get that bonus in my next year.
So for the next year you won't. Okay, your policy, the premium that you pay, your sum insured gets reset to whatever you had bought initially, and then the next year after that, if you don't claim, it starts increasing again.
Because
So-
I was just wondering, I'm just thinking out loud. Say it wasn't a health issue. I had an accident, for example,
Yeah.
and something that had gone wrong. I needed to take health insurance because I broke a leg or whatever. I injured or fractured something.
Mhm.
And when I come out, like it would seem unfair to me that my health insurance is resetting me to the same value because it's
Mhm.
not a recurrent disease.
Okay.
But would that apply here in this case?
So here the term used is claim. So it doesn't matter what type of claim.
Okay.
It could be as small as a claim of a daycare disease, let's say cataract disease, which is like you go for 3 hours and it's done, it's still a claim.
Right.
So it's not giving you a disadvantage because you are still paying for whatever you had initially bought. The additional feature is that you're getting the bonuses if you don't claim.
So we keep hearing this word cashless thrown around everywhere. What does cashless really mean in terms of insurance?
Cashless is a facility, and I repeat that word, it's a facility given by the insurance company that if you go to my network hospital, they have a list of network hospitals. Every company has their own list. If you go to one of those network hospitals, you would not need to pay upfront. So you get hospitalized. All your documents are processed by the hospital itself. They have a TPA sitting in-house, and then they submit all the documents to the insurance company and they process it in the back end. By the time you get discharged, your entire bill or whatever is less on that bill is paid for. You don't need to pay anything upfront.
You just need to pay the balance.
Yes.
For which I will discuss in length with you in my later parts.
Yeah.
Because I want to understand what is included and excluded
Right.
in a lot of health insurance policies.
Yeah.
But something that I really wanted to understand, like as a very first time health insurance buyer, that what are the different types of waiting periods in health insurance policies? Like, can I buy a health insurance policy today and claim it tomorrow? What if I know I'm going to get a surgery done? I'm just saying that there's so many ways to defraud a health insurance company.
Yeah. About the defraud, we'll get back later. But yeah, I'll answer your question about the waiting periods first. So when you buy an insurance policy, there are few standard waiting periods, but nowadays the system is changing for company to company. They're trying to be more competitive when it comes to lowering the waiting periods for you. But the standard is when you buy a policy, accidents are covered from day one. So you got your policy today and you meet with an accident that day itself, let's say, it's covered. Okay. The first 30 days, you have only accidental coverage and nothing else. This is for a new policy. I'm repeating, for a new policy. So the first 30 days is only accidents. Having said that, I'll just divert from my thing. I'll just tell you one thing that is probably not known is, if I asked you, let's say you bought a policy today and you had a heart attack later that month, before the 30 days, would the policy cover it? Yes, it would. Technically, a heart attack is an accident.
Accident.
You
Okay.
cannot plan a heart attack. Even though you have HTN, which is hypertension or high blood pressure, as people normally call it,
If you
it's
paid
still
for the
an
premium, it would still be
Yes,
considered
it
as an
still will
accident.
consider. So accidents are covered after 30 days. The first 2 years, you have waiting for certain lifestyle ailments, which is like hernia, fistula, piles, gallbladder, kidney stones, sinusitis, cataract, glaucoma. There are 18 categories, 18 or 19 categories of such ailments clearly defined in your policy, written in length, that this is something we don't cover for the first 2 years. Then certain companies, I'm not saying all, but certain companies have a 3-year waiting, okay, which is for old age bone related issues, all right, like hip replacement
Knee
or
replacement.
knee replacement, all of that. So that's a 3-year waiting. Having said, this used to be the standard, but companies are changing this all the time. They are either reducing it or increasing it, depending on the policy, depending on the variant of the policy, a good policy or bad policy, something
Because
like
I'm
that.
just thinking out loud, there's so many people who are unaware of their health status in India also. I'm
Mhm.
just saying that people don't usually get diagnostic tests done very frequently. I
Yeah.
mean, a person with diabetes or hypertension would know. I mean, at least to my mind, I think they would know because they would start seeing a lot of symptoms.
Mm.
But a lot of people who might have, say, a hip fracture, or I mean, I would consider maybe a hip fracture also an accident. But then you're saying that that person would have had to be an old age person, maybe.
So you sort of answered that question on your own when you said a hip fracture. A hip fracture happens because of a
Accident, yeah.
external aid that caused the fracture. But a
But it was
hip
age related,
replacement,
then
age
okay.
related
Okay, I
hip
got your point.
replacement is completely different.
Right. Something that I really want to understand now is, what are the common exclusions from a health insurance policy then? Something that a health insurance policy would never cover.
So something that a health insurance policy would never cover. Again, it's clearly defined in the policy. Uh, any action of war is not covered. I'm starting maybe from something I shouldn't have said first, but war is not covered. Anything which is to do with HIV, STDs, not covered.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Yeah, not covered. Sorry.
That seems unfair, but yeah.
It is unfair to a certain group of people. I agree to that. IRDA is working on that. IRDA is the regulatory body of insurance in India, and they are working on this, but it's very difficult because it has other connotations related to HIV. Hence, there is a problem with the legality of this. Then anything related to dental and skin is not covered.
You mean
Anything
cosmetic?
cosmetic, yeah. Anything cosmetic related to dental and skin is not covered. Specs, hearing aids are not covered until and unless it's an accidental. Even the skin, the dental, all of that is gets covered. But if it's not an accident, by default, it's not covered.
You said something very interesting on war.
Yeah.
I mean, would that include act of God, say an earthquake or a tsunami?
Everything else is covered. Even act of God is covered under health insurance. First of all, health insurance does not have a point of act of God, so it's okay.
Okay, so
It's absolutely
because
okay.
that would come under, say,
Accident.
accident. Right. But then, like, just to conclude the very basics of health insurance, what do you think is the current landscape of India in terms of health insurance? Do you think enough people are covered?
Oh, too less, I would say. The insurance density of India lies below 4%. So the insurance density is basically
4%.
4%. Yeah.
Okay.
So the insurance density is basically the entire population of India and the total premium collected by all the different companies. So if you divide all of that, it's just 4%. India needs more people on board with insurance to lower the premiums. So first of all, the more number covered, the more population
The
covered, the
insurance
lower the
premium.
premium. That's the usual ecology of this. The other point is that the IRDA is working very hard on this, right? So they've kept a goal of having at least 40% or everybody in India. The goal is actually to everybody in India to have an insurance, but then they're still targeting about 40% of the population to get on board with insurance. We need tier 2, tier 3 people from these cities to get on board with insurance, because they are the ones who are truly suffering, because healthcare is increasing every day. The cost of healthcare is increasing every day, and they are not covered.
There is another question I have on this. You put a very interesting number, 4%, which just seems so bad in terms of an Indian population of 40 crore people, which is roughly 7 crore people, if I'm not wrong.
Approximately.
But my question really is that does this number of 4% include the Swasthya Swati scheme and the government insurance schemes?
I don't think so. Those are included in this figure, because when I say that this is an IRDAI figure, we only calculate the premiums collected by all the insurance companies
insurance
and
companies.
not the government schemes.
Right.
So,
Right. All right. I think we'll talk more about this in the second segment, where we'll take it a little advanced. But Gaurav, thank you so much for this first segment. I think this is a great podcast for people who are looking to buy insurance. Please watch this podcast and try to understand the basic things of what included, what excluded, what is a cashless feature, and what are the things you can get from a health insurance. And I've given the contact details of Gaurav below. So please go and contact him if you're looking for one. Now, before we end, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Decode Age. Decode Age is India's first longevity research company aiming to increase the health span of people. The supplements and tests are based on the latest scientific breakthroughs in the field of longevity and aging cycles. The supplements they provide target the biological mechanisms that cause aging. For example, as we age, then NAD plus levels in our body decline, leading to mitochondrial dysfunction and genomic instability. Two main reasons for biological aging. And by supplementing with Decode Age's NMN, one can replenish the NAD levels in the body and tackle aging at a cellular level. Now, there are numerous clinical trials and experiments indicating that NMN increases the health span of individuals who consume it. I take it myself and it feels great. Apart from NMN, Decode Age offers other longevity supplements like spermidine, AKG, fisetin, and transresveratrol. If you want to start your healthy aging journey, then Decode Age is the place to be. Do visit decodeage.com and use my coupon code ANANT to get a discount.